Good morning, everybody. This is Addison Shonland. It is February the 10th, 2023. I'm speaking with Mario Asselin, Chairman and Co-CEO of Asselin Inc., a new airplane manufacturer coming to the market with an electric airplane, Mario. Tell us about your airplane.
Oh, so about a year and a half ago, we've been working for several companies and eVTOLs, and a year and a half ago we decided that it might be time for us to do a plane of our own after some 30 years in the industry or more. And so we started looking around at what was out there. I've written a few papers and blogs on the advantage of electric power and from an efficiency point of view. And essentially what we said is, let's try to create something that would be useful. I used to live in what we call a region away from big hubs for airports. And I've seen the loss of air service over the time as more and more is being concentrated in hubs. So we said, okay, let's design an airplane that has a reasonable size and that can provide a range that would be acceptable. So I'm from Quebec, and a minimum range that would be viable would be between 400 and 800 kilometers. The 400 is a bare minimum, but you don't get much of out of the region. So we looked at current energy capability for batteries and so on. We know that an all-electric propulsion system is the most efficient. And we said, okay, we can probably target 400 all-electric and have a reasonable weight. And then we need a range extender. So our SY30J has a range extender that would bring us to at least 800 kilometers range. And we started there. And then as the design evolved, Sylvie and I, so Sylvie is the co-CEO as well, we said, okay, we need to do more than simply an airplane because everybody will want to get there eventually. So we started looking at the fuselage size and we said, okay, when we travel, and Sylvie travels more than me, regional jets or regional airplanes are not very comfortable. So we need to pick a fuselage size that would make the journey more interesting. And then we said we have to be able to be at a reasonable distance from an airport as people are flying. And there's a NASA study out there that says that over 90% of the US population is within 17 miles of an airport that's at least 3,500 foot long. So okay, that is a nice design challenge in terms of field performance. So we had the range, and then we looked at the fuselage size and things that we don't like. When we travel on some regional aircraft, we don't have room for our luggage under the feet. There's not enough bag space overhead.
Right.
And airlines tend to cram us too much into the aircraft to make the journey profitable. The advantage of all electric is that we can, and we've seen that by analysis, reduce the cost of the journey for short range by up to 90% compared to what's out there.
90%?
Yes. So you take our concept. We want to establish single pilot. You don't use energy all electric when you're just waiting on the ground compared to any gas-driven aircraft that when running, they're burning fuel. So if you start looking at all the small things, plus the all-electric propulsion system is about 4 times more efficient. If you account for the extra weight due to the battery system, maybe that's 3.5 times more efficient. So you account for all this and all the energy drain that you don't have to account for, like during taxiing or during a descent, and possibly you'd get a very efficient airplane. And we wanted to give back to the community by providing more space in the aircraft and still allow the airlines to make money.
It's interesting you talk about taxi time. I'd never thought about that from the perspective of electric versus fossil fuel or let's say something that's burning. typically regional airplanes, which is what you're talking about, the taxi in and taxi out together is easily 20 minutes.
Well, that's what we use when we do marketing, right? But I've been to Atlanta, Dallas, and so on, and then you get to taxi more. And if the gate's not available, you're still burning fuel, engines on. Or if you're in a queue to take off and it takes 20 minutes in a queue, that's a lot of energy for essentially no travel. Even if you were to do just 100 nautical miles, you'd be burning almost as much on the ground. So electric, if your motors are not running, you're not using energy. You're just using energy in the cabin. So very low energy use. So yes, the marketing, when you do the marketing, and I did a blog on that, on energy reserves for electric airplane. If you look at real scenarios, not the marketing 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after, you start saving a lot of energy. So
right,
cost saving for the airlines.
And you're saving energy at the period where a turbo engine is very inefficient.
Exactly. Yes. Essentially, it's burning fuel just to stay alive, and the fuel flow could be 5%, 10% of what it is at max power, just to not shut down. So
that's amazing. So now you're looking at an airplane that's going to range between 400 and 800 kilometers.
Yes.
What is your seating capacity that you're looking at?
So the baseline design is 30 seat, 3 abreast, very large cabin for 3 abreast, and capable.
When you say
I know
very
airlines
large,
may want to.
Sorry, Mario. When you say very large, you mean very wide?
Very wide, correct. So it's the seats are at least 20 inches in width. So
wow.
you need
On a regional. That's amazing.
Well, I've traveled a little bit, and Sylvie and I have concerns. For example, when you think that we like to sit by the window, and when we get somebody a bit more overweight than we are sitting on the aisle, and we know that if there's an accident, there might not be as fast to exit. And they also tend to put people with reduced mobility near the aisle. And again, you'd be stuck if you're at the shallow, the airlines go down to 28, 29 inches in space between the rows. So we have a bit of concern. So we said, well, design 30. I know the airlines may want to put more in, so you'll be able to put more in, but the baseline aircraft is 30 seat, 36-inch pitch, and 20-inch seat for the width.
That's great.
So it should be comfortable, and hopefully it gets people going and they want to travel more, right? So you go to the region, and in the US we have a tendency to drive, right? Because it's easier than finding an airport. I live in Kansas, and 85% of the traffic comes to Wichita. But if you're in the northwest corner of the state, you're far from an airport. Sylvie did a trip to a supplier last fall, and she arrived late, about 11 o'clock at night, and we used to live by the airport, so it's not too bad. But the person sitting beside her said that once he landed, he still had 2 hours of driving to go to his airport, right? There's no air service around, so.
Well, if you talk about shrinking air service in the US particularly, and you're offering a seat production machine that could be 90%, I mean, that's an incredible number, 90% lower cost.
Yep.
That could change the regional airline economics completely, potentially, of course.
Potentially, right? So now you start thinking, what else can I do with the airplane? I have a large cargo door on the airplane. Maybe I have a half seats, half cargo. And to go to some airports, you just carry more cargo with you.
So you're thinking about a quick conversion as well of the airplane?
I had several configurations. One was a quick conversion, but talking to some airlines, they don't necessarily need the quick conversion. They need the capability to convert.
Okay.
So
overnight is fine. It doesn't have to
overnight is fine. So we have to start thinking of how do we do that, but it's not necessarily a quick 30-minute change. It's how do we do it and allow the aircraft to be configurable.
Mario, this is a very intriguing idea. What do you think is this market size for an airplane like this? Have you done any calculations?
Well, there's a few studies out there for conventional turboprop of this size. They say over the next 20 years, there's a demand for about 3,000 to 4,000 airplanes. So that by itself is reasonable. And then our Embraer down south did a further study for their Energia program, and they said essentially, if you start adding all the unconstrained routes for where now you're more efficient, you burn less fuel, more environmentally friendly, and maybe you have more point-to-point, they see a market of up to 20,000 airplanes.
Wow.
So 20,000 airplanes, no single manufacturer can produce that in the next 20 years. So how do you get there? You provide options to airlines, and you produce. So the advantage for us, we believe, is that Sylvia and I have been in the aircraft certification business for a very long time. We've done multiple programs, and we're designing with the FAA in mind, which we have approached last May, and just for them to start getting comfortable with the idea of a regional aircraft that is electric.
How many engines do you plan to put on the airplane?
I'm looking at 4. I like the concept of distributed electric. I can play with the airflow over the wing. The impact of losing one engine is less severe. And I'm still thinking single pilot, so 4 engines, 4 fingers to control power works well.
How do you think the market will respond to the idea of single pilot? That's kind of a big thing now with that the Southwest FedEx situation in Austin. Everybody's like, a little awkward about that right now.
Yes, but when I approached the FAA back in 2019 about going for a Part 25 aircraft, and of course the first reaction is, you can't do that. And then you start reading the rule, and Appendix D of Part 25 says you can go single pilot if you demonstrate you can meet crew workload and navigability, as long as the operating rules allow you to do so. And the operating rules says no more than 8 hours of duty for the pilot, and no more than 9 passengers right now on board. It's okay. I can have a all cargo or a combi aircraft today, if the cockpit is compatible single pilot, that could operate single pilot. And as technology matures, maybe that will be increased, right? The eVTOLs now are looking at pilotless. So things are coming along.
That's a very interesting perspective.
Yes.
So where are you in the process? You've got a design? And
we have a design. We had the flight simulator available, and we had a test pilot come in and try this. And we're at the funding stage with also meeting with local governments for support. And
you're looking at 30-seater. Is there growth potential in the airplane?
There is. So it's supposed to be a family of airplane. And as the aircraft evolves, we expect this first configuration that has 30-seat capability could grow to 48. And I could do a further stretch, and I'm considering 70-seat.
Wow. And you'd still go with 4 engines on 70 seats?
Yes. Again, as the cockpit will be the same, the aircraft layout will be the same, similar type rating. Try to keep everything the same.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mario. I really appreciate your chatting with me.
Thank you very much for